Welcome to Next Man Up, proactive DFS strategies based on inactive NFL players. I'm Mike Davis, the Q&A columnist at fftoday.com, and I'm joined today by Survivor Pool expert Matthew Schiff. Matthew, we had some price problems getting Lev Bell into our lineups. He didn't end up in any of my tickets last week. He obviously was the running back to play last week, and it killed us not working him in. What are your thoughts for viewers on price points of really desirable running backs like David Johnson and Lev Bell?
Well, in both cases, they're running about $10,000 in your DraftKings lineup. The question is, do you want to devote more than 20% of your lineup to one person? Last week, anyone who did not have Le'Veon Bell in their lineup did not do well in their pools. That is a case in point. But the question is, Le'Veon Bell against Cincinnati. This week, I got to figure out a way to get him in my lineup. David Johnson against New Orleans. I mean, that would be a two-headed monster if you could figure out how to do it. That would be an incredible lineup. But then you have to come in with $3,000 wide receivers, shots in the dark to balance that out.
Right. It is difficult. And you always fade a guy like Lev Bell at your own risk. And it was a risk we took last week and really failed hard by taking that risk. This week, I'm a little bit more excited about LaShawn McCoy than David Johnson. But the same logic applies. It's also expensive. So let's plunge in. I know you've got an appointment to get to, so we're going to have to get through our tickets pretty quickly. Not an issue.
In fact, one of the things that you were talking about right off the bat, and I have it on the screen at this moment, is we go back to fftoday.com and Mike Kruger's rankings and everything, and you talk about LaShawn McCoy. He's their number one ranked running back this week against a very, very weak Cleveland defense. The question is, which one of the three do you want to get? Do you want to get a David Johnson, DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell, those type of guys, and can he get a better value for the money? Because you can find somebody at the lower end where you're going to get a $4,300 value that we're going to talk about that was good last week and now costs $5,600. So.
Right. And those are the kinds of questions that I address in sort of four different ways with the tickets that I'm featuring today. I want to start by reviewing how my tickets went last week. And I have to concede that bad QB performances were a reminder last week that weather and crowd noise really become major factors at this point in the season. I ignored both those factors by featuring Russell Wilson against Green Bay in Green Bay, and I paid for that choice as Wilson threw 5 interceptions in his worst game of the year. My featured running back, Jeremy Hill, came through with 142 total yards and a TD. My featured wide receiver had just under 100 yards, including a 61-yard TD. That was Odell Beckham. My featured tight end, Jordan Reed, was a complete bust with just 10 yards receiving. I'm not doing well with tight ends in recent weeks, so I'll put that warning out to listeners. As always, I'll try to do better with this week's featured players. And here's a reminder of the 3 self-evident principles underlying the player selection process at Next Man Up. 1, it's better to operate with more information than less, so we go out of our way to let the latest injury news influence our lineups. 2, the backups who fill in for injured stars are often thrust into high-volume situations that aren't reflected in their pricing on DFS sites like DraftKings. And 3, for tournament play, plugging in no-name backups who may come out of nowhere is an easy and effective way to achieve differentiation from the crowd. Okay, so now I want to jump into my first ticket, and my featured player here is Taylor Gabriel of Atlanta at wide receiver. The Falcons are a heavy favorite versus the 49ers, a defense that isn't stopping anyone in a game with a pretty high point total from Vegas. With Julio Jones out of the lineup, someone's got to score all those points. And of course, you could do well by gambling on Devontae Freeman. He could, Tevin Coleman. He could, even Mohamed Sanu. I don't have a problem with any of those guys. But the thing with Taylor Gabriel is he's performed well in 5 out of his last 6 games, even with Julio Jones in the lineup. So with Jones out, I'm betting he's going to make it 6 out of 7. And that's how he ended up with this ticket here. I hope that's showing up for you, Matthew. Is that clear enough?
It is showing up for me. Ironically, they have Mohamed Sanu ranked ahead of Taylor Gabriel because they believe he'll play. At least at fftoday.com. And I'm looking at it on the screen if our viewers can see that right now.
Okay, cool. At running back, you talked about the difficulty of pricing out running backs this week. I went heavy on LaShawn McCoy in my tickets. This ticket has McCoy. We'll talk more about him later. But I went with a cheaper second option in Carlos Hyde, who's tearing things up in San Francisco. And I read a really good article about Hyde this week that sort of makes the case that, yes, it looks like Atlanta's likely to run away from San Francisco in this game. The Atlanta offense could pour on points, and that's when opposing teams abandon the running game and go to the passing game. And that makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams, but not for a Chip Kelly team. So I like the argument that Hyde will remain relevant in this game, even if San Francisco falls far behind. Are you buying that argument, Matthew?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And Hyde's highly ranked by FF Today. Go ahead.
Well, I look at your ticket. You like to pair a quarterback and a wide receiver, or a quarterback and a tight end. And over the season, what I'm looking for throughout the lineup that you have in there is in the wide receivers, I need targets. I need to know that he's our primary wide receiver. He's going to get catches. Every catch is 1 point. Then it's the yardage. Yeah, you might get a long ball once in a while from somebody who's giving you a 50-yard reception, but you want to have the guy like a Victor Cruz at his heyday when he was getting 8 to 10 receptions, or Chris Carter, who was 3 yards and a ball of dust, but he got 13 receptions a game.
I see. So what you're saying here is maybe playing the Odell Beckham long ball isn't the smartest approach.
Not in a winter game that's going to be played in New York in bad weather.
Okay. Hey man, you have convinced me. So I've got it. I'm gonna alter this now. I'm going with a different stack at QB and wide out. Who do you like?
Oh, let's go down. You see, what you want to do is, again, you talked about it right off the bat. How do I avoid the weather? You want to get the running backs in the really bad weather. You want to get the quarterbacks on turf or in good weather.
Well, the quarterback in a situation that I strangely like this week is Sam Bradford inside a dome. But Sam Bradford's not a great quarterback. So this was something – actually, this comes out in my other ticket. So I'm fully on board with your logic. Of course – I went with Derek Carr.
Perfect example is look at Marcus Mariota. He never played it. No, do not play him. In fact,
right.
I'm going to say this right off the bat. Do not touch this with a 10-foot pole. This guy, right off the bat, has never played a game in temperatures under 40 degrees.
I'm with you. And in KC, it's not just weather 0 at this point.
It's going to be
0.
It's going to be a
right.
100.
The other point I want to make sure people don't lose sight of is at this point of the season, we're in the run up to the playoffs, and people are fighting for seedings or they're fighting to get in, and crowd noise becomes a real factor, especially in a place like Kansas City. So I'm very interested not only in looking at weather, out momentum of teams and home field advantage as well. So for that reason, I do have Alex Smith as my featured quarterback in my next ticket. I mean, that's why I like him in Kansas City. But for the same reason, I agree. Mariota in a hostile environment, not excited about him.
In looking at it, and you're going to go, this could be a value play that actually, I think, where's Eli? Come down, scroll down. Eli was how much?
He was only 5,600, I think.
5,600. You have got 3 options that I can show you right now, right off the bat. From Dak Prescott down to I would go back up a little bit. You have Dak Prescott, Phillip Rivers, and Joe Flacco as good options this week.
I don't dislike any of those guys. And since Rivers is playing at home and routinely comes through, he's the one who leaps.
It's going to be a shootout.
All right. So let's see.
Wide receiver, then you have, in fact, instead of take a pair for him. Pair him.
Right.
Yep. Pair him with I
already have Tyrell Williams in one ticket. I don't mind using him again. I like Tyrell Williams. So does FF today. That gives me 1,600. That's a major upgrade.
And you're not subject to weather.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing. I had Hunter Henry in at tight end. And that, again,
I can tell you, you stack Gates in there. If he's in for anything less than 4,500, take him.
So you want a triple stack. Okay. And you're sort of beating me to the punch here because Gates is my featured tight end this week. And I'll get to the reasons for that when we get to that ticket.
And there you go. 4,100. You got 400 to play with. Let
me upgrade my defense. I'm not as excited about the Giants as I could be about a higher priced team. Ooh, the Packers. Here's the thing. Here's the story about the Packers.
Oh, the Packers.
Chicago is
bad weather.
Cold. Yes.
Bad Barkley, cold, snow. It is ideal.
Okay. All right. There we are.
Can I copy that ticket?
Absolutely.
I like that one. I think that's the first ticket that I've really been excited about to see how the weather really has the impact that we think it will.
Okay, fair enough. But in the interest of time, I'm moving on to ticket number 2. I want to explain why I like Alex Smith here. 4 reasons. 1, he's cheap. 2, he's playing at home in a meaningful game. 3, the Titan defense is 30th in the league versus opposing quarterbacks. And 4, Jeremy Maclin should be back at full steam. He did play last week, but he was limited. This week he should be back. And, of course, in Jeremy Maclin's absence, you and I have paid a lot of attention to Tyreek Hill. This ticket, which stacks Smith with Maclin, isn't an insult to Hill at all. I absolutely love Hill, and I think Hill is going to turn out to be a much more important playmaker than Maclin, certainly for the remainder of the season. But I also think defenses are looking at film of what the Chiefs are doing with Hill, and they're going to organize their defense around stopping Hill because he's been the playmaker in recent weeks. And just as we often see quarterbacks come in relief, and even though they're not very good, they perform very well that first game back because defenses aren't looking at film on them. I think that could happen this week with Maclin. So that's how I justify the Smith-Maclin pairing. And, of course, by going super cheap, Smith and Maclin are very affordable as a stack this week. By going cheap at those positions, I'm able to work in both Lev Bell and LaShawn McCoy. And I think getting in Shady and Lev is, the power tandem of running backs this week. Of course, I had to cheap out in some other places, including at wide receiver Marquise Lee. But Lee's been a steady, productive contributor for the Bills. So I'm not averse to that pick at all. And I also like Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace is cheap, and yes, this is a dart. You're taking a flyer on him, but he's been steadier than people give him credit for.
Ironically, they're ranked 27th and 28th, respectively, as a Tier 3 wide receiver, according to FFtoday.com. And they're ahead of Sanu and Gabriel.
Go ahead.
They're both ahead of Sanu and Gabriel.
Oh, and right. And which could, we're guessing, those projections, we don't know who's going to get the real play time, but, with your tickets, again, we've talked about this before, you don't want all your tickets to play out according to the same narrative. You pick because you're not going to guess all the games right. You guess about games working a certain way in one ticket, and you bet against that in another ticket. And with any luck, you find one ticket that makes the right guesses in conjunction with one another. And again, you'll see that I've worked in Carlos Hyde as my flex here. I remain stoked about Hyde this week. So if there are no changes you want to make to that ticket, Matthew, I want to buzz on to ticket number 3. Is that good?
I think in deference to time, we should get going.
Okay. My number 3 ticket features is the long shot play at running back. This is Kenneth Farrow, who's going to be coming in relief of Melvin Gordon for San Diego. No, I'm not 100% certain he's going to be the workhorse. Certainly, Hillman is also in the backfield, could end up with more carries. And as some writers have pointed out, Farrow blew some pass protection coverages last week in relief of Gordon. So don't run away with this guy. This is someone that I think should be on people's radar. That's why I picked him. Also, his price lets me work him in with Shady. And then I get in a number of players that I'm excited about. I've stacked Tyrod Taylor with Sammy Watkins. I get in Tyreek Hill, who could easily outperform Macklin. Certainly, there's every reason to think he will outperform Macklin. And I get in a big player like Beckham without having to stack him with Eli and without having to worry about whether the weather there keeps him from having a good day, because it's just one ticket. Tevin Coleman at flex. You see me flexing running backs this week, and that is out of deference to the weather. You know, it is saying maybe that short passing game comes into play a little more than usual here in week 15. And this third ticket has the Chargers on defense. They're playing at home. The last ticket had the Raiders on defense in that same game. I'm not sure that either of those defenses is going to do particularly well, but this is a kind of divisional rivalry where things can get out of control and special teams can make a difference. And what I'm doing here is I'm just rolling the dice on something freaky happening on special teams in this division rivalry game. I'm betting one way in one ticket and another way in another. Any thoughts on this ticket, Matthew?
I'm not touching Tevin Coleman.
Not okay.
And the reason why is last week I talked you out of Tevin Coleman, and he came up with 2 touchdowns and something like 50 some odd yards. And all I can say is I'm sorry, man.
It's okay. My quarterback was a bust anyway, so that ticket wasn't going anywhere. But I know how you feel. Okay, moving on to my fourth ticket. My featured player here is Antonio Gates, as I alluded to earlier. Now, it may seem sentimental to people. I don't like sentimental plays, and I know it's going to seem sentimental to people to talk about Gates just needing 3 more TDs to break Tony Gonzalez's record. But here's the thing. The Chargers don't have a lot left to do this season other than please their fans by getting Gates that record. And they're going to be playing at home against a Raiders team that is notoriously ineffective against tight ends. So how can you not gamble on Gates this week? He needs 3 TDs. Will he get all 3 in this game? Highly unlikely. But will the Chargers try to get him 1, maybe 2 of those TDs? I absolutely think they will, especially with Melvin Gordon out and with, split time between backups like Farrow and Hillman. So that's the logic for putting in Gates. And so banking on that Raiders-Chargers game to be a high-scoring affair, I'm working in Carr and Amari Cooper as a stack against him. You can see that in the other tickets, I've taken flyers on various Falcons. I've got a Tevin Coleman ticket. I've got a Taylor Gabriel ticket. So why not get in a Devontae Freeman ticket? I've also taking a chance on Jeremy Hill. Again, the same logic as last week with Gio Bernard out. Hill's a possibility. And this is finally, I just sort of stepped away from Shady McCoy so that not every ticket depends on Shady McCoy this week. I like Stephon Diggs because he's playing inside a dome. And as I covered earlier, I'm a fan of Tyrell Williams this week. He's back to full health, and he does appear to be the most dangerous receiving threat the Chargers have. And Jordan Matthews, this is a play. Do you have any thoughts on Jordan Matthews this week, Matthew? Maybe you know why I like him this week.
I just, as a player for the Eagles, he is just a very consistent, established route runner, and is basically Carson Wentz's security blanket at this moment. That's the reason why I like him. I like putting him in when he's a value play. He's not very pricey. And against Baltimore, isn't he going home?
I guess he is.
Do tell.
Well, I like him because of an analyst I heard last night explaining his height differential against the Baltimore secondary. So that really was a compelling argument to me. So he really got my attention, and I've worked him into 2 tickets as a consequence of that analysis from last night. So that takes us through my tickets and leaves us a little bit of time. Matthew, do you have a ticket?
I actually do have. I have 2 tickets that I'm running at this moment. I have one that's actually active because I started my ticket as of Tuesday night. Oh, very interesting. And that was something that's always nice to see when it comes up. Let me see if I can share my screen with you guys. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to share the right screen with you. That's the key.
Okay.
Here we go. Share that screen.
Good deal.
Okay. So now what you have in front of you are a current ticket that I started on a Thursday night. The reason why I like the Thursday night tickets is it gives me all of the players to choose from. I think, having all 16 games available to me is important. So
okay,
it's just one of the things I like to do. I happen to have some people I can change out, but at this point, I'm not sure that I'd want to change out in a J.I. or a Bilal Powell at this point, especially with what's his name, Forte, and with his torn meniscus, and he's still playing on it.
I see you went heavy with the Seahawks, man, and obviously you were rewarded by Wilson, and Baldwin did fine, but man, what a disappointment Rawls was this week, huh?
Right. Well, this is exactly, in fact, another reason why we should put these types of things up. Rarely do we go on a Saturday into our tickets and be able to see the impact from a Thursday night as much as it did on my last ticket. It doesn't mean I'm out, but now I've got to find some players. Should I play Brandon Marshall? Should I do a Devontae Parker? Can I find some? I have some salary here. So then in addition, let's get to my other ticket very briefly because I have to get out of here and my son is trying to reach me. I ended up going, and you said you didn't want to go that route, the Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, and then Taylor Gabriel combo. I thought that going against San Francisco, their defense is okay, not great, but with the fact that Julio Jones is out, I get a good value out of Taylor Gabriel, who last week was $4,300. This week is $5,600.
Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to hit my 2 criticisms. One, Brandon Marshall is projected to be the 53rd most valuable receiver by FF Today. I'm not sure what metrics they're using to conclude that he's just not that desirable to play this week, but wow, he does not seem attractive to me. He must have fit your pricing structure, but in that game, he is not a desirable play.
Well, he's a $5,700 player. I can knock him out tomorrow.
Okay.
Let's knock him out.
And on the other hand, okay, if you want to take time to do it, okay, but I don't want to hold you up.
Well, at $5,700, where I'm left in all games, filling in a player salary for a wide receiver, this is where I am. These are the values, according to them, that I have left.
Well, Landry outranks him by 17 slots on FF Today. So right away, that looks like an upgrade that saves you $300.
Okay, but I got Parker in there as well. I don't want to do a double.
Oh, no, you're okay. I feel your pain.
So now I take that out, and where do I land? I end up with a Devontae Parker. Do I play that Devontae Parker? Can I move out? I can't move out my flex. I can move out one of my running backs, but they're all $5,700, $5,600, and I've got to look at that.
Okay, yeah, maybe you can get to that afterward. I quickly want to say what my point is about Matthew Ryan. The thing is, look, he's not an elite quarterback. He's steady at best, and he's certainly a number 1 QB, but a low-end number 1 QB most weeks. And this week, he won't have his very best weapon, Julio Jones. Most weeks, I have to make a strong case just to squeeze Ryan into consideration. This week, no Julio Jones against a team that's not going to put the Falcons in a position where they really have to score a lot of points to win. I know Las Vegas says this is going to be a high-scoring game for the Falcons, but my question is, why does it have to be? I mean, just because Vegas thinks that's going to happen, I'm not sure that without Julio Jones, I think it is. That's why I think Ryan is overpriced this week. And we can revisit. You know what? Let's start next week by examining this question. And you can play him or not and let us know how it goes. I know you got a scoot, man. So we can leave it there. But I'll be happy to talk with you later off air when your day when your time isn't so tight. But I think for right now, I need to wrap this up and get you out of here. Yep. So for Matthew Schiff and Next Man Up, this is Mike Davis signing off. We will see you guys next Saturday. Thanks. Yep. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.